Lieutenant Ortegas does some Vulcan voiceover, Spock references a short trek, and Captain Pike tosses a carrot slice. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 2, Ad Astra per Aspera, written by Dana Horgan and directed by Valerie Weiss. We have a very special guest today. Finally, we get to talk about all the costumes and all the awesome stuff that everybody's always whispering about. We have costume designer Bernadette Croft joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. I love your Canadian belt.
Just trying to fit in. It's a shot in Canada. Also, very quickly, this episode, an entire season, was sponsored by our good friend Anna Post. Thank you very much, Anna, and congratulations on the new baby.
Yeah.
How you guys doing today?
Doing amazing. Happy to have you here, Bernadette.
Happy to be here.
Bernadette, you may not know this, but Cirroc has a very keen costuming eye. We've been doing this for about 4 years now, and he's always talking about the costumes, and they always go like over my head, but he's really good with it. Still, you don't need to be as good with costuming as Cirroc is to notice all the amazing costumes you've been doing throughout the first season, each episode having their own new set of costume and wardrobes. But this one in specific was amazing. What got you into costuming, first of all?
Yeah, I was obsessed with storytelling, filmmaking. I just loved the idea of being able to contribute to something so magical. And I think from a young age, I always thought, film was for me. And I just kind of went off to university, did design for theatre and TV. Went to New Zealand without having a job, but knowing that the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe was being made over there. And I just started phoning every department, just like, can I have a job? And then finally I got a job on that. And then, things just start moving. Once you get that first job, you make your contacts and then, you're in. And, I'm originally from Australia, but moved to Toronto, Canada about 10 years ago.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I think I'm surprised about is not only how talented you are, but how young you are, and you're just, I'm like, wow, the expertise that we're seeing is just amazing. From the beginning, Ryan and I have agreed that the things that are unquestionably at the top level are the costumes and the set design, as well as the makeup. And that's been a kind of consistent theme for Star Trek for decades now, having this high bar of set design, makeup, and costuming. And you are absolutely crushing it in your department. I love it. And I'd like to talk about some of the things that you do detail-wise when you make these costumes. We saw, for example, in this episode, a lot of the officers wearing a kind of gold trim around their wristbands. It had a gold design pattern print down the middle. And that's something new that we haven't seen before. Can you talk about some of those additions?
Yes, good eye. So we're often kind of looking back to TOS for inspiration. Strange New Worlds is a reimagining. We want to kind of lean into that nostalgia, but still make it our own, infuse it with our own ideas, and think about a modern audience and what kind of detail they expect, production values that they expect. So our showrunners Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonso Myers said, look at TOS, look at the menagerie. So we looked at parts 1 and 2 of the menagerie, and we saw those formal uniforms. And yeah, you're right. The trim around the neck and down the center front was a key feature. And I offered up about 5 designs to consider, and I really liked the choice that the showrunners and director Valerie Weiss went for. which is kind of a nice combination of the Admiral uniform, which is, usually seen on Admiral April, where the rank is on the shoulders, and it's got those design details, which has spacer fabric in those inlays. So it's quite it's a technically quite a long costume to sew and to build and to fit. It takes several fittings, but it was a nice it's a nice fusion, I think. And I would thank you for those lovely, kind words. And yeah, Jonathan Lee, our production designer, is a living legend, in my opinion. And I'm often very much inspired by his work. I'm always snooping around and seeing what he's up to, because he's kind of always one step ahead. And I love seeing his ideas. He's just amazing. And then our team, obviously, I'm very much inspired by them. And that's what the show is. It's a group of people. It's a collaboration. We're pretty lucky to be on the show.
Yeah, the not to talk too much about these specific uniforms, the ones behind me, but they really jumped out. It was in the trailer before the second season started. Everybody's talking about them. They look amazing. I think what really kind of stands out is this gold thick trim going down the middle and on the side. And it felt like it was a bold choice. Star Trek in the past was very conservative in how elaborate they were. It was like, except for Jake Sisko vests. but otherwise they'd be pretty plain and simple and sharp. And it seems like you're getting free reign to say, all right, they're telling you, all right, let's see how creative you can get. You don't have to just stick to one hard color. Have those conversations happen where they just said, hey, go nuts, see what happens? Yeah.
Well, it's like we're definitely guided by the showrunners. I am so lucky that they do give us a lot of creative freedom. Like at the start, Gersha Phillips, who co-designed the first episode with me, her process on Discovery to get those uniforms, she said it was just like a lot of like redesigning, buying new fabrics. Like it was just a lot of work. And so I was just kind of like bracing myself for a similar kind of experience. But I think our show, we kind of, we do lean into having, fun with it. We want to kind of like embrace that optimism. We want to embrace the vibrancy of the original series. We want to inspire and be memorable. So I'm very much inspired by TOS, its vibrancy. And I guess in the formal uniforms, we do continue using the department colors. So that's why it's pretty colorful. And then the gold rank, I just think looks so like sharp, and that rank is 3D printed. We get that sent away.
It's gorgeous.
We just wanted to kind of like, look important.
Yeah. And it was a patterned gold down the middle too. It wasn't just a solid band of fabric. It seemed like a texture, a design to it. Really stood out. I wanted to ask you about the badge or emblem that they are wearing, because all the judges seem to have been wearing different ranking of this triangular shape type of configuration that formed a star if it was complete, and then started to form another star underneath it. It appeared to me, at least. Is that something that you're part of the design of, or is that in a props department? That's a question we've actually had.
Yeah, we've ping-ponged on that for a while.
Yes, it is props, and it's one of those things that sometimes there's that grey area. If a prop is being worn physically by the actor, we often have a say, and there's definitely talk and collaboration, and we have meetings. But yeah, that Jim Murray is our props master, and he designed those. He did the update. And it's just kind of like medals of honor, just showing where they've served before. So everyone's is different and just says a little story. And he's got like a key that what every little triangle means. And so it's just like a special little touch for each character. Yeah.
You know,
Sure, we see that in the military with the places that
right.
people have served with the colors and the rankings. Yeah, very great touch. It's I think the first time I've seen it. I don't know about you, Ryan, but it's the first time I've seen it.
Yeah, it's in a couple original series episodes. And it's big and bold in the original series, and it's big and bold here. And it's just it seems like it's such a tightrope walk because you're designing the uniform and someone else is designing something that goes on the uniform. What if these things clash? What if you have two different visions? You really need to have these open lines of communication and be able to kind of say, that looks cool, but I just want to let you know that I'm doing this color and I'm not sure if that's so it seems like you've got a great relationship there.
Yeah, we love working with all the different departments. It's such a wild ride. So even with prosthetics and hair and makeup, often stunts, and definitely props, it's always our kind of like our little projects bleed into each other, and there's always meetings to make sure we're all on the same page. But yeah, I love the collaboration and just the guidance from the visiting directors, like they're guest directors, like every episode is different. So it's just wonderful getting fresh eyes on things as well. Our showrunners are obviously there to like guide us and have the bigger picture in mind always. But it's fun when we have people like Valerie, who has a PhD in physics. PS, like she's a smart lady, and she
nice.
Yeah, she's definitely well equipped to be working on Star Trek as a director. She's so creative and fun. And Dana Horgan, who wrote the script, is just made it so thrilling. Like it's a courtroom drama. It's quite serious, but the script is so thrilling. That was wonderful.
I want to ask you about Star Trek outfits. When you go into like a personal wardrobe category, for example, in the courtroom, the lead attorney defending Gruner, I thought wore some extremely stylish dresses, and they looked amazing on her. There were the kind of high shoulders. There was an asymmetric.
Yeah, my
green
favorite
dress.
was the asymmetric one that just kind of had like this side done. I was like, that is sharp, man.
Yes. How much was that kind of? I mean, I felt an African like tone to the designs of her dresses. I wanted to ask you if there was any of that inspiration there, and then also I want to ask you about Pike's casual clothes when he's on that planet.
Yeah, Yitiri Badaki, who played Nira, I think was just so perfectly cast.
Yes.
She's dynamite. She's so fantastic. And she brought this really powerful energy, and she's such a collaborator as well. Our fittings were just so wonderful. She's like incredible. I can't speak highly of her. And her hair choice, I think,
her hair was amazing. Oh my God. Flawless.
Flawless, like iconic. And she really she looked great in costumes and especially tailoring. And I think when we visit the planet, the Illyrian planet, a lot of the background are in those monochromatic, but quite, those jewel tones, quite colorful and quite stylish. And I just wanted her to be powerful, feminine, and command a room. And I think having her in those like eye-catching jewel tones, she just looked amazing. Our cutter is Stephen Wong, and he's from Greta Constantine, which is a fashion label based in Canada. And he just has such an eye and can drape fabric to the body and is just incredible. But yeah, Yitiri, so good.
I mean, you started with the ruby red with the big collar, the off center asymmetric
right, just
collar.
one collar kind of angled. Yeah.
It was it looked gorgeous on her. Then you went to the green dress with the one side, and I love the shoulders on that. You also had her in a very beautiful blue dress. I mean, I just thought the stuff was just out of the park. And then Captain Pike, I want that jacket so bad, the one he was wearing when he went to the Illyrian planet.
I want that apron.
I mean, this is my rendition of that jacket. It was a 3/4 length. It was a 3/4 length kind of leatherish looking jacket. Did you make that jacket? I mean, that is unbelievable.
It's so cool. Like, I definitely was inspired by Blade Runner. Having a very iconic coat for our hero, I think, is necessary, and especially like he's traveling. We don't know what he's going to come across, so it's kind of protective at the same time. He can kind of like fit in.
Yeah.
Crowd.
Smart.
A lot of the design lines are very much Star Trek, like our Strange New Worlds design lines. So there's kind of like a little bit of a reference there to the uniform, like our field jackets, the cropped bomber jackets that they sometimes wear when they're visiting a planet. But yeah, he looked awesome. And the assistant too, I don't know if you remember her. She was in that little kind of like blazer with the fishtail back and like her cool neckline, and she had the nails and the hair and the makeup, and it all just looked really cool. And she was just like giving him so much attitude, and he was just like, yeah, whatever it takes, I'll wait.
Yeah, I love that outfit she had as well. I think it was a pearl type color, but it just was so radiant, and the colors were just amazing. I love the fit as well. I want to give you an A+ for tailoring, because the fit on all of the shoulders are just so great. You don't see run-ups on the camera, and things just really fall well on everyone's body. So the cut, the color, I mean, just the designs, everything is out of this world, and I'm just so happy to talk to you about this stuff.
Oh, thanks so much. And it definitely is a team effort, and our cutters are so incredibly talented, and I really am inspired by them. And I know what they can do, so it's like I can start being even more and more ambitious, like, oh, Carla, you're good at tailoring. Wing Lee, okay, you can do a mean jacket. Let me like work this in, and obviously the good taste of our showrunners and producers and our director, like I do offer up options, and they've chosen those designs. So yeah, it's definitely a collaboration, a team effort.
You were giving us a little idea of the kind of timetables you work on when you're preparing for this stuff. Obviously, you're preparing for the next episode while you're working on an episode, and also having to get stuff in advance for that episode, because you have the fittings and the wardrobe appointments. What is that process like as far as like timetable wise?
Yeah, I'm often thinking in advance, because we're shooting an episode, we're prepping the next episode, and then sometimes episodes even further in advance are so costume heavy, I have to start doing design work. Otherwise, we'll run out of time, and it won't look like the way I want it to look. So there's a lot going on, like, lots of tabs are open. We're always like getting inspiration, putting mood boards together, looking at fabrics, textures, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was a crazy time. It was COVID as well, so we've got that to battle with as well. And Rebecca Romaine, it's an Una episode, right? Rebecca got COVID just before that episode.
Oh no!
One fitting with her, it had a lot of alterations. We had to nip it in. The hem needed done, and some of the insets needed to be adjusted. She got COVID, and then the production team were like, she has to go straight to set as soon as she's out of quarantine. There's like, do not pass go, do not collect $200. She's got to go straight to set. And we're like, oh my God. So we got one of the drivers to drop off the uniform to her house, and on Zoom, we did our final fitting. Sue Furlong, our tailor, and I were just like biting our nails, waiting for her to come onto Zoom, and then she just appeared looking fantastic and was just like, looks great. So it was just like moments like that where it's just like, oh God, like I think I need a drink, but we've got so much still to keep going, so it's just wild times.
Now,
I've never heard of a Zoom fitting, by the way. That is the first.
Yeah, not my
you do
favorite.
what you gotta.
Yeah.
A little nerve-wracking.
Thank goodness it worked out.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Bernadette, you mentioned Gersha Phillips. So another, I mean, she's an absolute legend right now in her field, working on Star Trek Discovery. And you worked on a few episodes of Star Trek Discovery with her as a costume design assistant, as well as a co-costume designer. Number one, what was it like working with Gersha? Number two, did you have any idea that this was leading to a potential next step on Strange New Worlds?
Yeah, Gersha Phillips, she's the GOAT. She really is, and she's doing amazing. She, did Woman King. She's doing a Marvel film, and then maybe she's coming back to Toronto for another special Star Trek project, maybe. So yeah, Gersha Phillips, I think I learned so much from her. She's got such a technical, she makes everything so perfect, and it's just so amazing to work under her, to see how she works, her eye, her attention to detail. She's very technical, and I think if you're on a futuristic show, it's so important to be like, she's always covering the zipper heads. She's always making scenes look less bulky. She always wants to make things look like they're 3D printed, She's always thinking like that. So I always still think about her sometimes when I'm like in a sitting going, what would Gersha do? So it was a really great training ground. And I've always wanted to be a costume designer. So after leaving Discovery during season 1, I got my credits up. I did shows, design shows. And then there was a moment where Gersha's like, there's another show coming. Maybe you should come back to Discovery and co-design a few episodes so you're in, And then I did do that, and she was right. It was like being part of the Star Trek family. They know you, they know what you can do, what you're capable of, and they promoted me like in-house in that way. Wow. To work on the show. So it was just, an amazing journey.
Wow.
I also want to compliment you on your personal style.
Those rings, huh?
Well, not just the rings, but the actual, her fashion, what she's wearing, and what I've seen photographs of you wearing. Just the way you wear your clothes and the style that you have is very unique. It's definitely you. And what I want to ask you is, because I've met other fashion designers and costume designers that don't really care how they dress. They're not really into their own personal dress, even though they put a lot of work into their work. Your personal style, though, it's very colorful. It's very fun. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think it depends what show I'm on. I kind of am absorbed in that kind of zeitgeist, and I just can't help but bring it, especially to events and functions, or if I speak to a group of people that are interested in the show, I can't help but do it. I just love it. I love clothes. I do love fashion. And it's just it's self-expression. It makes me feel good. So it's just, I love being a bit extra at times, for sure.
Bernadette, we only have you for another minute here, and we really appreciate you taking the time today. But there's something that I've just wanted to ask you since the very beginning, which is, we've seen 12 episodes of Strange New Worlds so far. And basically, every single episode is its own genre, its own style. And you have to create, or you get to create, costumes that are completely different from one episode to the next, which has got to be an incredible playground for you, but it's also very trying, I'm sure. But up until episode 12 or season 2, episode 2, do you have a favorite? Was it, the fantasy episode where they're wearing, the fantasy type clothes? Was it something like this where you can kind of reimagine the courtroom looks? Did you have a favorite?
Oh, definitely the fantasy episode. I think because it was like an inner child moment. I'm literally designing things through the eyes of a girl, Rukia, and thinking about that imagination, what when you're a kid, it's just so vibrant. It's so fantastic. It's not really genre specific. It's just like whatever is amazing. Like you get to design that. So I just felt like so much freedom there. And Akela Cooper and Nitra Johnson, who wrote that script, definitely was just like, yeah, go for it. And Amanda Rowe was the director, and it was just such a wonderful episode. Oh, there they are. Yeah, so fun. Yeah, we're hoping to be nominated for an Emmy. We'll see what happens.
I mean, hello.
I know. It's that was a real standout, a real favorite. But like you say, every episode, there's something special about it. So, and there's still some more to come. And then there's a season 3, which we had started prepping, and oh my God, amazing stuff coming your way. So lots of good tracks still to happen.
Can't wait.
Oh, we're excited.
Yeah. Well, Bernadette, thank you so much for coming in and joining us. We know that even when there's a strike going on, you've got a million things that you could also be doing. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hang out with us and talk to us about things that we've been wanting to hear for 15 months?
Oh.
Yeah.
13 months.
At least. And my advice to you is to make sure you start saving all of this stuff, because your memoirs are going to be a big bestseller.
Yeah.
We're going to want to see all the sketches and all the ideas and where they came from. You're amazing, and I think the sky's the limit for you.
Thank you. You're like bringing a tear to my eye. Thanks so much. And thanks for watching. We really appreciate your show too, going to the depths that you do, the thoughtful questions. It's great to be on the show. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate that, Bernadette. And now everybody at home, stick around. We're going to take a very quick break, and we will be right back on the 7th Rule. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to a very serious edition of The 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Of course, we are doing Strange New World Season 2, Episode 2, Ad Astra per Aspera. Here are the trivioids of the week. If you're wondering why we're acting so serious, it's because we laughed really hard right now in between the breaks. So we're just like trying to collect ourselves. Here are the trivioids. Number 1's legal counsel works for Starfleet. The Valtaran Nebula locals have adapted to its toxic atmosphere. The Judge Advocate General is looking at Una Chin Riley's case. Captain Pike tosses a carrot slice. Vice Admiral Pasalk joins the proceedings. Lieutenant Ortegas does some Vulcan voiceover. Spock references a short trek. Admiral Robert April turns down a beverage from Captain Pike. First of all, I don't know if you've seen the short trek episodes, but if you remember when Spock said her affinity, Una's affinity for Gilbert and Sullivan, that was from a short trek. It was like a little 6 or 7 minute sing-along, number 1, and Spock got stuck in a turbo lift, and they just start singing. It turns into a little 2-person musical theater show. So as soon as he said that, I was like, wow, it's pretty cool. They're referencing short treks now.
Wow. That's entering it into the it's almost putting a stamp of validation on it, that it's getting canonized essentially. That reference, at least.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But these guys who are making this new stuff, they spare no expense on making just the most amazing kind of drawback and callback references.
Yeah, and another thing was, here was something that I found to be very funny, because this was an episode, obviously it's not a funny episode, it's not comedic, it's definitely a courtroom drama. In the first 20 seconds, I was like, oh, this is a Cirroc episode. That was my first thought.
Yeah.
But the funny moments was they both came when Ortegas and Mbenga were talking about the two Vulcans, Spock talking with that admiral. And Mbenga was like, "Oh yeah, they're fighting. They're in discord." And he's like, "Yeah, you can tell." And she's like, "Are you being serious right now?" That was very funny. But what was the other line? Oh, when Spock gets up and he walks over, he's like, "I apologize for you seeing that outburst," or whatever.
Yeah. I
That's
regret
such-
you had to witness that outburst.
That
Like,
is
what outburst? You literally just got up and walked away.
that was a perfect Star Trek scene. That whole thing was beautifully well written. It
I
was
thought so too.
well acted. It gave us some really good laughs. I can't find it in my notes, but A+ for that scene.
Yeah, I said the same thing where Ortegas is kind of mouthing what she imagines the conversation to be between Spock and the other Vulcan. Then she does a little snooze. She's like, like snooze fest. I thought that was another funny moment. And it just showed a lot of chemistry between Mbenga and Ortegas. It gave us character development. Miniature moments like that show us chemistry. They show us that they get along, and shows us how they talk to each other in personal moments. And I thought that was great when Mbenga kind of says, "No, those guys obviously hate each other." It was just good insight. I thought that scene was very well written. And actually, going back to Rebecca Romijn, this was by far my favorite performance of hers so far. I thought she really nailed this episode. I felt her pain. I felt her struggle. I thought she was great on the speech that she gave towards the end when she starts talking about her family and having to be, going through that kind of persecution and things she suffered through as a child. Those were very good and all believable for me, and I thought it was some of the best performance she gave so far in this show.
Yeah, that might be the character that I'm most curious about, is number one, because she was originally created in 1964 as part of the Cage pilot, and then it was released whenever it was, decades later. And since then, we're all like, hey, that was Majel Roddenberry. That is a legit person. That's a legit character. And it never made it to the actual original series. So for decades, we've been wondering, who was this character? What's her story? All this and that. And now we finally have that character. So for me, I'm super interested and excited to find out more about her. Like, I'm most excited to learn about the characters that were only in an episode or two way back in the day, like her, like Mbenga, like T'Pring, like Nurse Chapel, who was also Majel Roddenberry. Those were the ones that we barely knew. We only knew them a little bit, so I'm super curious about those. And this is one of our first chances to really get, sink our teeth into one of them, specifically her. So I was very happy about that personally.
And the other thing that I think they did well in this storyline is what we've constantly kind of complimented Star Trek for and what it is good at. And what Star Trek is good at is taking themes that we deal with on our day-to-day lives, placing them in a different context, in a future sense, and making us factor and understand our own human experience through watching it unfold in a different kind of format. And in this case, when we're dealing with Una's character being an augment and having to deal with the kind of adversities that we've seen other ethnic groups, religious groups suffer from, then you see those same things play out in a different way, and you start to see the kind of persecution that different groups of people have suffered through in order to find a way for themselves to be accepted. You think about the LGBTQ community. You think about what blacks have gone through with civil rights. You think about apartheid, for example, in South Africa. I thought was a big kind of
Yep.
Theme that was borrowed from in this episode. When Una talks about having to, when they decided to split the augments from everybody else and basically make two cities, and that she chose the other city. But that reminded me of the same kind of segregation we had in this country. It reminds me of the same kind of segregation that was exists in South Africa, where the whites live over here and blacks live there. And so when you talk about those same issues and you put them in a different frame, like augmented, people, or people who don't have the same kind of are genetically modified people, for example, then you see those parallels there. And I thought that was one of the things that this episode accomplished well.
Yeah, I thought that the big standout line with reference to that in this episode, and I don't remember the exact line, but Nira, the counselor, the attorney, she said she was basically making the argument that yes, this is the law, but sometimes laws are wrong. So she wasn't necessarily arguing, according to the law, this happened or that happened. What she's saying is the law needs to be reexamined because in our history, there were all kinds of laws that were completely horrible. And just because it's a law doesn't mean we shouldn't re-examine it and think, maybe something needs to be changed. Because just saying, well, we're just following the law, that works most of the time in a civilized society. But as history shows us, sometimes laws are 100% wrong. And we need to reevaluate those. And so that was like a big moment there for me. That was the big one where I was like, oh wow, this is almost a new uncharted territory for Star Trek, which is hard to do 800 episodes in, you know what I mean? But this felt like it was kind of a new spin or a new subject matter that they were tackling,
Yeah, and they used asylum as their main legal defense, which I thought was a great idea because we see asylum being used in headlines today. I thought that was a great spin on the legal defense using asylum. It also used the ideals of Starfleet against itself. Like, well, isn't the Prime Directive about this, this, and this? Well, if we're going to be about this and this, then shouldn't it apply in this situation with this person who's, notifying Starfleet and asking for help and faced persecution and basically checks off the list of boxes of requirements for somebody seeking asylum. So I thought the way they meshed that in together was well done for me. I thought it was well done.
Yeah, I loved it. And this is what Star Trek does so well, of course. And we're going to get, Cirroc, you're going to get more episodes like that in our next generation watches. So look forward to that. Something else that's going on. So far, it's only 2 episodes into this second season. But we have now seen 2 Star Trek Discovery actors crossing over into Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The first one was the Klingon lady, Jen, played by our friend Hannah Spear. And now we have this Tellarite fellow, played by our good friend, Mr. David Benjamin Tomlinson. And how cool would it be? I have no idea, but how cool would it be if this entire season of Strange New Worlds, they just have one actor from Discovery coming over and coming like this whole I mean, so far, I mean, we're 2 for 2, so who knows what's going to happen. But what if they just had, what if, Discovery, all the actors are going to be like, hey, you want to keep working? Come on over here, like we know Hannah Spear can do it. She's done multiple roles on Discovery. She's super talented. We know David Benjamin Tomlinson can do it. He's done multiple roles. He's super talented. There's no reason why they can't keep doing that. But definitely, above all, big kudos to Hannah Spear and David Benjamin Tomlinson for being talented enough to where another series like the Jeffrey Combs or the Vaughn Armstrong thing, where they go like, "Ooh, we like this person. Let me take that one."
Yeah, and also they are based in Toronto, and I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a smaller selection of extremely talented people than there are in a big city like New York and LA. So it would make sense to use those talented people once you've kind of discovered their talents, which they seem to be doing. And Star Trek is always good at recycling people that they like a lot. And David Benjamin Thomas is no exception. He's just fantastic. He's got the, if you didn't tell me that was him, I wouldn't even know. He's just going to blend right in there, and you won't even know it. Yeah, this is a courtroom drama episode, and we talked about this before, how Star Trek can take almost any theme of television that's out there and make its own version of it. We talked about the dramas, the medical dramas, for example. They can do a medical drama show episode. They can do a courtroom drama like they did in this episode. They can do a police investigation drama like a CSI type of thing, a murder investigation, a Columbo type episode, a Sherlock Holmes type episode. There's pretty much, they can borrow from any genre. We saw a horror episode.
Horror, we saw fantasy, we saw Freaky Friday Switch episode. Right. Yeah.
Right. The only thing we really haven't seen is dragons, but they could do dragons if they
I want to see a Transformers episode. That'll be fun.
Yeah. Or a Lego crossover. Hey, look, the Legos are on Star Trek. But Ortega's is hilarious to me. I love the lines that Ortega's got. I also like La'an kind of coming out and feeling guilty that maybe it was La'an. It was her personal logs that might have gotten Una in trouble. So that kind of accountability shows me a lot of character on her part, that she's willing to step up and identify herself as a possible the source of the leak. I just felt like there was a lot of good lines in this episode, and one of them that stood out to me the most was about being part of something bigger than yourself. And to me, that is another theme that Star Trek and Starfleet represent. We all feel connected to something bigger than ourselves, and that's the vision that Gene Roddenberry has created for all of us, that we can all play in the same imaginary playground together and agree on the same set of rules, that, hey, no, this is the Gamma Quadrant, and that's the class this ship, and that's the, and we all have the same, imaginary playground we can play on. And there are some parameters. Bernadette gave us really great insight about taking some of the old themes from the original series and making them new again, and modernizing them, and putting her own flair and touch, and then bringing back a new life to it. And I think that is one of the special things about this Strange New World show for me. I do have a nostalgic feeling of watching it. It does feel like something old, but something new at the same time. It's like checking those two boxes for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool because a few people, including our associate producer, Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, have said that watching this show makes them want to watch the original series. And I don't want to put myself in their brains, but I would think that's one of the biggest compliments they could get, is that they're making this show 57 years later, and people that were not even close to born when the original series came out are inspired to watch the original series because of what's going on here, because of the references, the homages, the characters. They're obviously doing it right if they're inspiring us to watch those old scientists, as our good friend Ensign Beckett Mariner once said. But yeah, they're really doing a great job. I also heard, by the way, very quickly, a few non-appearance mentions. but I don't know if they've ever appeared before, so I'm not sure if we can use these. It was Admiral Perekin, Norel, and Monastu. So we'll just hang on to those and see what happens there. But
yeah, you don't want Monastu's revenge.
okay, like Montezuma, is that what we're talking? All right.
Well, yeah, a little
we'll
minor
take
one,
it.
yeah.
We'll take it. When you, Cirroc, when you saw that this was going to be a courtroom drama, did you lean in a little bit, or were you just like, just another cool Star Trek episode?
I leaned in a little bit. I like good courtroom dramas, and I like this episode because I thought the guest star in this episode did a fantastic job. It might be one of the best guest stars of the new iterations of the the live film stuff. I thought she really stepped into this role and played kind of a female Johnny Cochran of the future, and had a cause that was even greater than the one she was arguing for on Una's behalf, more for the entire race of people that she belongs to. And I thought that added to her storyline and made her have something to fight for and something bigger, and even swallow her pride between the beef she had with Una. I thought all of those things were great. And also I want to add that what I appreciated as well was the fact that they used an actual book for the Starfleet code of conduct, or whatever it was that they could refer to it as. Code of Justice. Yeah, she said, I want the Starfleet Uniform Code of Justice, and volume 42 or whatever it was. And I like the fact that they brought an actual book. They could easily have done a digital thing. It could have been a readout. It could have been on one of the pads that they read. But they actually brought a book. I think to signify the significance of a book in your hand, because that book became a prop later on during the trial, in which she handed that book and said, well, can you read for me this page and that part? Could have easily have been a tablet, and it would have been less, I think, poignant and significant. I think the idea that it was a book made it special for me, and kind of closing the book on the argument, opening the book on the discussion.
Yeah, when you were saying that, I was thinking like all those terms. There's book 'em, there's throw the book at 'em, there's buy the book. All of these things that reference the law and courtroom things, and legalities. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I enjoyed the prop of actually having a book, because we don't see books that often unless you're
Except for in Discovery.
Chateau. Yeah, or if you're Chateau Picard and he's sitting by the fireplace. Yeah, you just see books in Discovery. But yeah, I like the idea that it was a book. I like the idea that it was a legal argument, and it was. I like the idea that it was in their best interest to keep their mouth shut and plead the fifth, as far as Una and Captain Pike. Like, both were given very valid reasons on why they need to not speak and defend themselves, and I thought that was accurate. And then I want to say, I know we're getting close to wrapping this thing up, but another thing that's pretty special is that they were able to now do the first 2 episodes of this season. Now, we were told by Chris that, Anson had a baby, and that he was, dealing with that. And so I imagine that also carried on to the reason why he was so light in this episode. Because he really wasn't a big focal point. It seemed like he only had several
maybe in like
here and there.
Maybe in like 2 days, 2 shoot days or something like that.
Exactly. So another thing that I think is pretty remarkable is that they're able to continue the momentum of the show without their number 1 star really being heavy in either of the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, and that's great, because in Star Trek we don't need that. We don't need it to be the number 1 star in every single everything, I think they did that pretty heavily, like in the Kirk and Spock days. It was very Kirk heavy. But yeah, I mean, if Pike is not in 1 or 2 episodes, the show goes on. You know, it doesn't skip a beat. They have 8, 9, 10 very interesting characters. They've got great writers. Yeah, we're fine. You know what I mean? Like we love Anson Mount, we love Captain Pike, but if the lead of the show, of any Star Trek show, you know, is only in 1 or 2 scenes or not around, the show definitely survives because they have already, I mean, we're only 12 episodes in. It's crazy to say that, but we already have several very rich characters that we already know very well and love very much. So yeah, it's always just an opportunity for others to shine, honestly.
And they used that opportunity very well. I thought they just inserted a couple of really small scenes that were really great. The Mbenga Ortega scene, very small, but had impact for me. The other scene that I felt was, you know, it was small, but it had impact. It was
it Robert April rejecting his offer of whiskey? I was like, oh man, he tried to hand him the whiskey. And he's like, nah, man, I'm out.
No, it was another. It was when La'an was asking Uhura if she could get into the database because she wants to be able to clear Una's name, and Uhura was like, "I'm sorry, no," and basically said no, you know, and kind of put her foot down, like, "Look, I know you want to save your friend, but you're asking me to do something illegal, and I'm going to have to put my foot down and say no." And I thought that even though there was a little bit of conflict and tension, it was a great moment between 2 characters. You know, just that moment to see them interact, to see how, you know, one person either resists or pushes harder. I thought that was a good moment.
Yeah, there was also a little bit of reveal to that. At least to me, maybe it's not a big reveal, but to me, it did make me kind of think about it. Is when Uhura said to La'an, she said, "Look, I know Una is your mentor, but you are mine." And so that's why she's like, "I'm not going to let you do this. You know, we're going to figure out a different way." And it's interesting to just kind of think of it that way of it's not just a mentor helping a mentee, but the mentee's also saying like, you are way too important to me for me to let you do something like this. So it was a good, interesting moment there. I liked it.
I did too.
So we're just about out of time here. Lots of great stuff. Great seeing David Benjamin Tomlinson. Bernadette Croft was amazing for us. Let's do a
also really quickly. I want to add another shout out before we go. The Admiral, the Black Admiral, who was also in this episode, did a great job. I thought. Yes, I thought he did a great job, especially his scenes with Pike, the moments they exchanged about.
No, not this guy. Then that was Robert April.
Okay,
it's hard to tell here, but it's dark. But Robert April has the shaved head.
Yeah,
but Admiral he was the one that rejected the drink at the end there. Yeah,
I liked his performance as well.
Absolutely, he's been in a few episodes now, and this dude is killing it. Let me see if I can pull him up here.
You said April or April?
April. Okay. Robert April. Here it is, right here. This guy.
Yeah, I like him. He's good, and he had good moments there with Pike because he was like, basically trying to throw me under the bus now. Like, I'm trying to help you out, and you got me on the hot seat. So
we're getting a lot of depth for him too. He's not just Admiral of the Week or the Badmiral of the Week. They're actually growing his character, which is great because Robert April is a known character and we want to grow that. And they're doing a great job of not just throwing random characters in to help the story. They're giving the, tertiary characters their own stories, which is really important and very fun for the Star Trek fans.
Yeah.
All right. So let's give a very special thanks to our friends, Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman, Tom, TJ Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arukin.
Arukin.
Ooh, you can't see him today. Titus Muller, Darlena Marie, Dr. Muhammad Noor, Tierney C. Diekman, Anna Post, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, DQ, Neil Akasaka. By the way, everybody knows that Bill Victor Arukin is a big wrestling fan, so he would recognize this move if you did it. Also, Justine Norton Kurtzen, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Jane Jorgensen, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manisfee, Nikki T, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, and of course, Jason Okun. All right, everybody, that is our fun for the week. This is a great one. Can't wait for the next 8. It's going to be a great. And so far, Bernadette and last week's guest, Chris Fisher, are both like, wait till you see season 3. We're going to have to wait like a year for it. It's going to take forever. But we're just excited for season 2.
As long as they keep the quality up, if they keep that quality like they're doing, each episode feels like a movie. I'll be patient. We'll wait.
Yeah,
we'll wait.
I mean, I'm really enjoying season 2 so far. We've got 8 more of those. So that's about it, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Oh, please make sure to go visit Patreon. That's patreon.com/the7th-rule and support this show. For just $1 a month or $5 a month, you can become a member, a patron, support this show, and keep the show going. Keep the proverbial lights on, if you know what I'm saying. So please make sure you do that and show us your support. We'd really appreciate you. And I think that's about it.
Yeah.
For Cirroc Lofton, myself, Mr. Aaron Eisenberg, thank you very much for joining us. And until next time, that is, always remember the 7th rule.